Hi, IAD fans. Um, Welcome to chapter 5. I know that my eyes look a bit baggy today, but and then it's been like through 2 or 3 days late of posting the last video, but I've not been getting much sleep, and it's really weird. I'm not sure why my insomnia is returning, but too much blabbing about me. I'm just gonna have to deal with that. Really. But it's been fun. I've been spending the time late in nights making dough, like bread. Who makes their own bread in this day and age? Like, seriously. Anyhow, the exciting saga continues. Chapter 5. The fumes of swamp, steamed hot dogs, and sour beer wafted up Mist and her sisters as they perched on a roof above the chaos that was Bourbon Street. There were rumors of vampires running about New Orleans. Vampires? In Louisiana? Unheard of. If there had been only one account of leeches, then she and Regan and Nix would still be back at Valhalla, their Bayou Manor, playing video games. But a demon friend had sworn she'd seen one, and a phantom had whispered that there was not just one vampire faction, but two. Miss Eyes darted over the scene, trying to remain focused and not notice the couples frantically grinding against each other in dark alleys. If Daniela was here, she would blow them a kiss and cool them off, freezing hands to asses in mid-group and making her sisters cruttle and roll along the roof. Miss supposed that the Valkyrie was easily amused, but focus was proving futile. Ever since her heart had sped up at the ideas of vampires here, if for some reason they had come to this new world, which the Horde historically found vulgar and beneath them, that still didn't mean him, Roth, one of her true regrets in life. Every day she mused that she shouldn't have left the vampire to suffer. She should have killed him. Regan tossed her blade up, caught the point in her claw, then flicked it up once more. You know, now that I believe that vampires are actually here, cause that's just wacky talk, come on. But if they were, they should know that this is our turf. Did you ask him to rumble? Or to mash? Miss asked, in a swiftly braided hair twist, length in her back. I've heard these can be a graveyard smash. Even sporting the old-fashioned hairstyle, and occasionally a confused glance, Nix saw the future more clearly than she saw the present, and Nix still looks like a supermodel. I'm serious, Regan said. New Orleans may have been the mystical melting pot of the world, but we can't control this place. This is our turf. We can always send Misty and to the vampire lair to battle them, Nick said thoughtfully. Oh wait, then she'd run off with them. Regan added, or use her fanged tongue to assault to flail their skin from their bodies as they inexplicably line up to sacrifice themselves. Hardy har har, Miss mumbled, half listening. She'd been razzled about this continuously, and she deserved it. She might as well have been caught free, basing with a ghost of Bundy. Of course, others had overheard the jokes in the cavern, and the word spread. Even other factions of the lore, like the nymphs, those are the hookers of the lore, whispered about her unsavory predilection towards vampires. But it wasn't vampires plural, it was just one. wrath. She shivered with his slow, hot fingers. In her bed at night, she would touch herself. She always fantasized about him, remembering his hard chest, his hard shaft, imagining his ferocity, his intensity if he would ever found her again. Truthfully, she thought he might have found her by now. She'd accidentally given him her blood, possibly given him her memories, which could lead him straight here. She often pondered that reckless kiss. She'd known she had no discernible intention of giving him the blood. But hadn't she known in the back of her mind that his fangs would be razor sharp with her sister's arrival? Hadn't she wanted him to find her? She shook her head, needing to stay sharp. Anika, Daniela, and Lucia were down there somewhere. Look it, Regan said, pointing down. Men that big should never be snockered. Miss turned her attention to the tall man who reminded her of Roth from the back. But couldn't she get the vampire off her brain? Though this one was much rangier in build, the man leaned against another massive male, hanging onto him for balance as they walked. She noticed her claws were curling. Mist, can't you control that? Regan asked, with fleeting glance at her claws. It's embarrassing. Listen, I can help it. I like big males with broad shoulders. And I bet underneath that trench coat, he has an ass that begs to be clutched. Nix offered. And it's not like she can put a band-aid over his ass. Holy shite! Regan exclaimed. I see a glow. Ghouls. Down by Eurolis Avenue. Damn it, Nix muttered. In public again? They're hard at recruiting then. Ghouls were maniacal fighters out to increase their numbers by turning humans with their contagious bites and scratches. They had green, gelatinous blood, and the parish of New Orleans went gooey every time the Coven fought them. Again, Nick sighed. And there's only so many times we can convince drunk tourists. And there's just so many times we can convince drunk tourists that they're extras in a sci-fi flick. Like, come on. Regan slid her blade into the forearm self. Stargate Part 12 is officially on location, guys. She rose. We'll go canoodle the ghouls. You keep watch for the vampires, she said to Miss. She made a ghostly woo-hoo sound. Woo! And try not to lift tail for any of them, okay? As Miss rolled her eyes, her sisters linked arms and leapt down, moving so quickly that they were like a blur. As usual, no one could see them, and if they did, in this lore-rich city, one would not register it. Mist surveyed the glow from afar. It was that extensive, it wasn't that extensive, so she knew they could handle it. As eldest, Nix was the strongest, and Regan was willing. Besides, Miss had new boots, and on over her damn dead body she'd lose another pair to the epic battle between buttery soft Italian leather and goo. Too many casualties already. It was terribly saddening, really. Her attention easily fell once more to the man on the street, and she raised an eyebrow. If his front matched his back, she'd be tempted. It had been ages, no, literally, ages, since she had some little sum-sum, and she deserved. She sucked in a breath. with realization, springing back against the dormer. The drunk was no drunk at all. She saw when he peered down an alley, giving her his profile. The body she'd been ogling was that of her estranged husband, as the covering liked to tease her. He stumbled not from being drunk, but from his weakness. His built deficient because he lost weight, and that was his brother, Murdoch, helping Roth to find her. Shaken, she crept along the roof, pressing herself around the dormers, hoping to get away before he saw her. But he stopped, lifting his head above the milling crowd, then swung around to her direction, and his gaze fell directly on her. His eyes went black, feral, and riveted to her with a look of utter possession. When Murdoch's gaze followed Roth's, he gave her an almost pitying expression, and he slapped his brother Roth on the back before tracing away. The blood left her face. She leapt to the roof of the adjoining building, gaining speed for the next. She screamed as Roth, gaunt and visaged appearance, directly came in front of her. He had traced. She sprinted in the other direction, but he snatched her around her waist, pinning her to him, making her feel his erection thick against her. She elbowed his throat, dropped from his arms, and dove over to the edge of the roof. She stumbled into a high-walled courtyard, landing on hands and feet, then scrambled up to leap out of the darkened space. But her speed was no match for his tracing. He snagged her again, and though she fought, he was somehow stronger even in his condition. Maybe because of his condition. Who knows? One of his hands yanked up her short skirt. "Roth, don't do this!" "5 years of hell," he sneered, palming her ass roughly. "You deserve to be fucked till you can't walk." She gasped, trembling. "So the Warlord claims his prize? It figures that you take your bride whenever, wherever, whether she wants it or not. You wouldn't make me remember being forced, would you?" After a pause, he bit out, "No, God, no." She heard him freeing himself. "Missed," he groaned. "Just feel me." He took her hand and made her cup his heavy sack, then gripped his shaft. Never had she felt such hardness in her life. Like, seriously, in her life. "Rub the head," he rasped in her ear, making her shiver as she felt the moisture. "That's as close as I can get. I can't get anywhere without you. I need to fuck you so bad. I'm sick without you, Mist." "Roth, don't!" With a bitter curse, he lowered his head, forehead pressed against her neck. But he only thrust against her ass. "Can't stop," he grated, and she knew that he wasn't going to take her body, just touch it, use it. Why couldn't he refrain from her? His fingers trampled her nipple. Lightning. No, she couldn't want this, could she? His breath was hot on her and made her body glow liquid. She could want it, just as she did every night in her lonely bed. The air was sultry, redolent with the scent of jasmine, and even more moist than usual from the pounding fountain in the corner. No one was home. He wouldn't take her, so why not enjoy this for just mere moments? When she went soft in his grasp, Placing her arms back to look behind his head, he growled and kicked, his feet against hers, making her spread her legs. Shuddering, he ruthlessly shoved against her flesh, then threw back his head, yelling out just before he came. And at the last minute, he turned from her and began to spill his seed on the ground. She was frozen, unable to see for some strange reason. It affected her more to only hear his reactions. The guttural groans erupting from deep within his chest. She felt the violent shake, the strength in his racked body as he clenched her through waves of pleasure. It went on and on, each second that passed reminding her of how badly he had needed this. Then he put his lips on her neck, clenched her ass, and she knew he was shaking within himself directly to ejaculate again. When she thought about how many nights he would have gone envisioning this, her head fell back against his shoulder. The second time was impossibly even more powerful, and he desperately kissed and licked her skin, squeezing one breast, then the other, reminding her nearly of when he'd brought her to come that night in the dungeon. She wanted to join him. She wanted him to work his fingers on her next. When he was done, he lifted her hair and brushed his lips on her neck, shuddering and breathing heavily. Her eyes closed, and she was just about to say, "My turn," when he did the most bizarre thing. He arranged his clothing again and pulled down her skirt. Then he turned her to him to stare into her eyes. He cupped the back of her neck hard and yanked her face to him. But instead of drinking her or hitting her, he squeezed her into his broad chest, his hand moving to the back of her head, tucking her into him with those powerful arms, which was disconcertingly pleasant. Curious, she let him embrace her, relaxing just a fraction, and in return, he lowered his head to kiss her hair. Finally, he set her back to face him. His expression was not wild, but grim. "I've searched everywhere for you, bride." "I've been right here." "You've treated me ill, leaving me in this state." "My sisters were going to kill you, but I saved your life. And you are about to treat me far worse, or have you forgotten?" "And licking my fang?" That had been an accident. Still, she raised her chin and said, "The least I could do, since you were about to torture me, consider it a memento." His face had hardened at that, but then he seemed to get his temper under control. "For 5 years I've waited, envisioned the retribution I would met out, constantly imagining making you pay for what you did to me, mist." He exhaled a long breath. "But I'm weary of it, darling, weary of carrying this. I want to look forward to get to know you, to get on with our life." "Our life?" "From here, we're willing to start with a clean slate. A clean slate, mist. We are even for misdeeds against each other, and we will forget about any that we did in the past. Indiscretions that might have gone on before we met. We are even." Indiscretions. How magnanimous of the vampire to give her an empty scorecard just to fill it right back up. Your blood gave me more than a mere taste, Mist. How do you think I found you? So you collected my memories. Lovely. Did he now know she'd been utterly infatuated with him? Had he harvested her knowledge about the lore? So, did you enjoy telling your brother and your friends all about my life? My private thoughts? My private deeds? She asked. I've never told anyone anything I've seen. You must believe me, he added, and in an odd tone. I vowed I never will. This is between us. Can you vow you'll never use this information about my family to harm them? He growled. Forget it then. Doesn't matter anyway, she said, trying to wrench away from him. There's no starting our life. Even if you hadn't been able to do what you did that night, breaking my fingers and my legs. He didn't deny these things. That's in the past, and you paid me in that kind. If it's any consolation you want, know that I've suffered far worse than I could have ever done and inflicted on you that night. For these years, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't drink. The only thing I could do was fantasize about fucking you, with no relief. Mist! Warmth blooded in her belly, but then she frowned. It doesn't console me. I just want you to let go of my arms and allow me to walk away. My kind abhors yours. Don't you get it? And even if I liked you and you were decent to me, my sisters would kill you and I'd be ostracized by every being in the lore. There's no way in hell I choose pariahhood with you over my current life, which I happen to enjoy by the hell out of, by the way, so just back off, okay? I don't want to hurt you again. He raised a patronizing eyebrow at that, which made her bristle, then said, I can't let you go. I'll never do that. Not until I die. I give you a warning, Roth, and I say this only once more. Release me. It will never happen. So what will it take for you to accept this? A vow? Done. I vow to you that I will never use the information that I've learned to harm your family. And as your husband, I could never harm them anyway, because harming them would only end in harming you. When she saw he was deadly serious about this, she realized playing with him was over. He was going to try to force her to live with him, because he truly felt that this was his right over hers. No different from all the others, her name should have been Miss the Possession, not Miss the Coveted. She wondered if she'd kneel over and she wondered if she'd keel over dead if someone finally asked her if she wanted to be with them. Roth? She whispered, shaking her arms up his chest to twist her fingers behind his neck. He leaned down to her to hear. Do you know what it would take to make me your bride in truth? Tell me, he said quickly. The life leaving my cold, dead body. She needed him. Deciding that at the last moment not to break his tailbone with her blow. When he fell to his knees, she backhanded him, sending him flying 20 feet into the courtyard wall. He bellowed in fury, slow to rise as she sprinted down a breezeway, nearing the Roth iron gates at the street. But he traced forward, snatching her, brushing her down her back with his fingertips, then snagging her chain. that laid upon her waist. She screamed in pain when it broke free from her. Great fire knocked the chain. If he figured out its power over her, it wouldn't matter how strong she was as a Valkyrie, or how well she fought. She ran for her life, bustling through the locked gates, blowing them off their hinges to clatter a spark across the street. But for 2,000 years, it had been unbreakable. Down here, run, escape from his voice. Miss, stop! He roared, frustration choking him when he found only the fine gold strand of chain in his wrist. Yet, she froze, nearly falling forward, her feet planting just so quickly. She turned to him, sauntering back down the corridor to rejoin him in the courtyard. Licking her lips, she smoothed her hair, then said, "That's mine, and I want it back, Roth." She reached for it, but he held it high from her. He was not magically inclined. He hadn't believed in the lore until he was turned. But even he felt the power in the strand of gold. But the power of what? How badly? Lightning streaked the sky behind her. She must want it really badly indeed. Would you steal it from me? You've stolen from me. Years. You've taken years from me. I thought we were even. That I was until you tried to unman me. I'll be kinder if you give it back. Her eyes were mesmerizing, and he had to shake himself. We're past that point, and I wanted was to make my life with yours, and you left me in pain. Earlier, when he'd finally been released from the endless nights of torture, he'd felt an overwhelming gratitude to her, probably irrational, since she'd consigned him to it. But he'd known a measure of contentment for the first time in years. Then she lashed out again. After tonight, understand this, that you'll never be brought to heel. He clutched the chain, revealing it earlier, how she'd stopped to suddenly. Unless, he trailed off, staring down at her eyes, riveted to his kneel. Her knees met the stone, as if she'd been shoved down. His eyes drew together in shock, and in realization, his brows coming fast. Shiver, he commanded, not quite believing she actually did, and her pale skin prickled as if with cold. Her nipples hardened, and she hugged her arms around herself. He knew his grin was wicked. 5 years of imagining had never prepared him for this. Grasp my belt. She looked up with dread, was staring into his eyes pleadingly, when he turned to her and said, "Come." So, that's it for chapter 5. I guess Roth has now found out he has new powers over Mist, that the chain around her waist has some sort of mystical control over her. So, what will happen in chapter 6? I guess we'll know in the next video. So, till then, ta-ta guys.